This afternoon, or this morning, it's quarter to 11 on the 28th of January, 2015. We're interviewing Mr. Jesse W. Long of Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Jesse is a Vietnam War veteran, and we'll be getting into that shortly. But first of all, I wanted to ask Jesse what your current age is, what you up to these days?
67. I'm retired.
Retired?
Retired and enjoy my farming. I have a small farm,
Right.
which I live on now, and that's keeps me busy and just taking it easy.
Good. I understand you grew up in Carlisle Springs.
I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Born and raised in Carlisle Springs and on a farm, and 8 kids, and we just had a kind of an ordinary farm family, I guess, but a lot of work and good times. But yeah, I went to school, Cumberland Valley High School, graduated from there, went to Hack for a couple of years, and then I didn't apply myself as well as I probably should have, so I went in, had to go into the service because I was getting a draft notice, and decided to sign up for the Army.
So you thought you'd beat him to the punch on that one, huh? Maybe
Yeah.
have some.
Yeah, it was about to change to to the draft, so I.
Right. What were your feelings of entering the service? What year did you go in?
1967. I really didn't think too much about it. I mean, there was three of my buddies in Carlisle Springs, who we decided, 2 of my buddies, or 3 of us, decided to go talk to the recruiter, and we did, and he was a salesman, a good salesman, decided to talk us into 4 years instead of 3 years, which the Army would be 3 years. So because he was going to put us in the Army Security Agency, we had to sign up for 4 years. So we said, that sounds like a good deal, and they don't go to Vietnam. The Army Security Agency is not in Vietnam. But it didn't take too long to figure out that they would change the name when we got to Vietnam, but that's...
So your feelings about Vietnam at that time, was that a concern, or was that kind of put on the back burner when he said they didn't send ASA people over there?
It really didn't affect me. I don't think either way. I wasn't opposed to going to Vietnam. It's just that he talked us in because of our scores. We were all relatively high, scores in high school, not, completely weren't geniuses, but we passed the scores and flying colors and got eligibility to join the ASA. So so we did.
Can you explain what AS is? ASA.
It's Army Security Agency. Headquarters was in Van Hill Farms, Virginia, and not really knowing a whole lot about that when we were signed up for the Army, we just sounded good.
Yeah.
The Army Security Agency was just good jobs. We'll be in, security details. But after we got to training and got through basic training, we got split up anyway. We were, our deal was that we would be together, but that didn't work. Got through basic training, and we went 2 different ways at that point. Then when we got to Vietnam, the other guy and I had to split up too, so it didn't really fulfill their promise of a buddy system.
What type of specialized training did you get at ASA school?
I was in Morse code training. The Vietnamese used Morse code to communicate, and our job was to intercept the Morse code daily. The 2 of us that went to Fort Devens together to ASA training, which was a Morse code training, and sat in front of the keyboard for 8 hours a day learning Morse code, most of which I've forgotten by now. But
did you get any language training or anything like that?
No, we didn't have any language training.
No Vietnamese or
No
French or
Vietnamese,
anything
no,
like
no.
that? Other than basic combat training, basic training, and ASA school, did you receive any other specialty schools?
Well, when we finished our Morse code, we had 10 days of jungle training at Fort Devens, at going through the process of being captured and escape and evasion training and those type of things. But just for 10 days, it wasn't it wasn't not like a infantry 6 weeks training, but it was a 10-day course in escape and evasion and those type of things. But
Now, when you were finished with that, your first duty station, did you stay stateside initially, or go
No, we
over?
went directly to Vietnam after after Fort Devens. We were the you know, like 90% of our class was sent to Vietnam, even though they had. But like I said, we were changed to radio research people then. Radio research detachments.
Radio research.
Yep, that's what it was called.
Did you initially land at Tonsanut and go to MACV, Military Assistance Command, Vietnam, and then get stationed
Landed
out?
in Saigon, which was the headquarters for the Army Security. The radio research group headquarters was in Saigon, and was the group was there. Battalion headquarters was at Long Binh, and then from there we were detachments, and each detachment was attached to a combat unit, and I was attached to the 11th Armored Cavalry.
Okay, and what year was that? You went to it.
That was in '68.
Black Horse.
July of '68.
So you were stationed initially. You came in at Tonsanut, and then went to Long Binh.
Mm-hmm.
And where was the 11th Cav at the time?
At Swan Lock.
Okay.
It's a little town north of Long Binh, about 50 miles. Nothing there. We were the town of Swan Lock was like 10 miles down the road. We were out in the middle of a jungle. I mean, it's cleared off. We had a base there, but that's where the 11th Armored Cavalry was when I went there.
Now, when you went to the 11th Armored Cav, did you go to regimental headquarters, battalion, or down to troop level with the 11th Armored?
11th Armored was the whole command was right there at Swan Lock. What we were attached to the command level, because every morning the briefed the Cav on communications that were held the night before. As we had the Cav was deployed from Swan Lock to different locations, to Quan Loy and places up north further, and even into Cambodia. So we had 3 armored personnel carriers in our unit, in a detachment where our equipment was in, and also some trucks.
Now, what type of equipment did you have that you operated? Radios, I'm sure.
Yeah, but the interesting part is there were a lot of them. We called them ditty boppers because of the Morse code name. Became ditty boppers. But when I got to my unit, they had enough MOS ditty boppers or Morse code interceptors that they didn't really need me in there. They needed somebody in the motor pool, and my background and what I grew up, and like I said, I grew up on a farm, but my grandfather had a garage, so I was there at nights, most every night, helping him. So I knew more about mechanics, but I volunteered to work in the motor pool. So I really never worked my original trained
Your
MOS.
primary MOS.
Yep, primary MOS.
Did they award you a second MOS for
Yes,
mechanics?
eventually after working in the motor pool for a number of months, and the motor sergeant left, and I took over the motor pool, and I became a 63 Charlie, which was the mechanic. So
Interesting.
so I became the motor sergeant for our detachment for the rest of that term, and then like I said, I extended 3 times, so I was there. I had 4 tours in Vietnam.
Wow.
But the original tour, I became the motor sergeant and took care of the APCs that we had, 3 APCs, the trucks, the Jeeps, and all that. So,
All the mech stuff and the wheeled vehicles.
Yeah.
What tour were you on when the 11th Armored got the word they were going into Cambodia?
That would have been in
70?
we moved down to Zion from Black Horse after the first year.
Right.
But during my second tour, I was there for a year, the first tour, and then I went back every 6 months for 3 times. So we were down in Zion, moved to Zion for the whole group moved to Zion. Then we deployed from there, but they went up into Cambodia and Laos from there. And Quan Loy was the outpost that they worked from. And like I said, being the motor pool, I never got out there in the Cambodia area.
Okay.
So I was
So, what operations did you participate in with the regiment?
Um, like, the problem is, not the problem, but the reason I didn't get out there is, like I said, I was back
Running
taking care of the
support.
vehicles.
Yeah, I guess so.
So they would be deployed for a number of months and then come back to base camp and stand down and rework the tracks and take off again.
So, I'd be curious why you kept extending. You know, you
Yeah.
ended up with 4 tours.
I
Had you found a home in the Army? You
think
really
so.
enjoyed?
I did, in the fact that the guys I had working for me in the motor pool were my buddies, and we really worked together, and they all had the same type of term, except one of them was drafted, and he came from the actual MOS there, but he worked for me. But we had a really good group, and didn't really think too much about the danger or as much as being out on the front line. So we were back there. It didn't seem like the thing to do. We had a good group, and also I wasn't thinking of making the Army a career, and they were given 5-month early outs if we left from Vietnam. So extending 3 times, three 6-month tours.
Sure.
It gave me a 30-day home leave in between each one.
Right.
And we just kind of all stuck together and did the same thing, and we just had a group of good buddies, and that's kind of the reason. It wasn't any thinking about it. There wasn't thinking about that what's going to happen to me next. I don't know. At that time of my life, it was just a thing to do.
Well, you're young and you've
Yeah.
got a good crew, and you're enjoying the work that you're doing, and you're supporting the guys that are out in the bush.
Right.
You know, so that's pretty
correct.
important stuff. What would you say are some of the most important skills that you learned in the Army?
Important skills. Well, I think friendship was a big thing, and how to be a friend. And their buddies, and I'm not saying it wasn't dangerous. I mean, I lost a great buddy in a Jeep beside me one day on the road because of snipers, and it just did. Those kind of things you really puts you back, but it happened, and but it's not something you can't dwell on it, and I guess just going back and trying to make things better.
Now, did you find in your support area what seemed to be, as I understand, pretty common occurrences, rocket and mortar attacks on your position?
Rocket and mortar attacks were very my first location at Swan Lock, and I remember not being there a month, and we're in the hooch sleeping that night, and all of a sudden you woke up with a big bang, and not 100, 200 feet from the hooch, there's a big hole in the ground, and you're finding a bunker. But I mean, it became kind of like second nature. You find a hole and you crawl in when it's happening, and it's over, and you move on. I know you just can't let it get to you. But yes, rocket and mortar attacks were common, especially at night when they knew the base was there, and that's where they were trying to do damage.
Did your area of operations sustain many casualties because of these, or was it more of a harassment?
No,
than
not
anything
in the
else?
base. Now, the 409th Radio Research Detachment that I was with the CAV, had 2 casualties in the whole Vietnam tour.
Okay.
One of them was my buddy,
Right.
and another one was a lieutenant that was there on 66 or 67, I believe. And so our group, our detachment, being a support activity to the CAV, wasn't quite in the front as much as they were. So we did not have a lot of casualties, which was good.
But you had ever-present danger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I said,
24/7,
we were there.
you know.
The rockets, all was coming, but just and there wasn't as many of us. I mean, we're a smaller group compared to the whole cab, and they're out there in the front further.
Sure.
I mean, I've seen following the cab. Every morning the road had to be demined on the coming out of our base camp because they mine the road at night. Well, I've seen what they do, and I'm following the convoy of minesweepers and how they can blow up, hit a tank and blow it up, blow the track off, and it goes there, and the other tracks go off to the side to guard it. Well, they know where to put the mines. They blow that tank up. So I've seen that stuff following those guys happen, and like I said, as my group in the Radio Research Detachment, we're more protected. We're back watching that stuff, which is,
but still
there. It's like you said, it's there, dangerous, but it wasn't something I thought a lot about at the time. Like you said, I was young, and something had to be done.
Would you care to relate the instance where you lost your buddy, what you guys were up to, where you were headed, what the mission was for the day?
Unfortunately, we were headed to the guy we had taken one of our guys to Benoit Air Force Base which was between Long Binh and Saigon. The Benoit Air Force Base was there to get a flight out because he had emergency leave, family emergency. So we took him down there, and as I said, the roads were mined at night, and they weren't very snipers and things. And it wasn't dark, but it was hindsight. It was too late to come back. And I was driving, and he was passenger. But so we can get back to base camp before dark. And unfortunately, a sniper, shot at us, and he didn't make it. I got him to the medevac unit at Swan Lock, and the last thing he said when he put him in a chopper was, "Those dirty, rotten bastards."
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, very tough. I have, you gave us a number of wonderful articles that you used in Vietnam and photographs that were taken of you in Vietnam. And if I may, I'd like to ask you a few questions about this stuff. I have some copies of the pictures, and the observer won't see this necessarily on camera, but I'll describe it. Got one here of you sitting in a Jeep. Looks like it's in a base area, and there's a fellow that's got his foot up on the side with his shirt off. You look kind of cocky sitting there with your hand on your knee. Can you tell me anything about that picture, where it was taken, and?
Yeah, that was in the motor pool at Swan Lock, and that was Skamowski, and unfortunately he's passed away now. But he lived in New York, and he was.
Looks like you guys were pretty good buddies in that picture.
We were.
And I will mention these pictures are in our archives, and the public does have access to them, as they will this year.
Like I said, it was very, as I said, we felt secure at the base, except for rocket attacks and things like that. But I mean, that was the Jeep, and one of the trucks was sitting there, and we had our times where we sit back and relax and enjoy ourselves, and we had moments of. Big thing that was changing tires. Oh my gosh, flat tires on trucks. It was just a continual effort. But anyway,
you're talking about 2.5 and 5
2.5 ton trucks, and
What about breaking track on some of the
breaking track
APCs?
was another issue. It's kind of
it's tough work.
Labor intensive. But yes, when they come back in, and we had to replace track.
Now we have another one here where you're sitting on the top of your M113 Armored Personnel Carrier, and it looks like you're giving the signal for a right turn. Sitting just above the trim that's on the front of it. Also, it looks like you have an armored machine gun, 50 caliber turret on the back of it. Now, was that in the motor pool also?
Yes, we had 3 of those.
And this is what year, 68?
Right, 68, 69. It was still up at Zion because I had that Quonset hut there with the track. And that had to be between 60... Well, like I said, I got there in July. That was probably maybe in 69. We had a lot of Tet offense in 69, but I was there until June of 69 when I went home the first time. But
And then we have one more here of you standing beside sandbagged and screened hooch with your boonie hat on and your jungle fatigues. Is that basically in the same area also, same period of time?
That is the hut. Yeah, that was our hutch at that time,
Now I noticed you also gave us, like I said, a couple of your jungle tunics, some of your OG sateens, fatigues, patches. I mean, quite a lot of stuff. I noticed in looking at your jungle tunics, it appears that you have theater-made patches on there, either made in Vietnam or in Cambodia. Now, do you remember having these patches made in country?
No, I thought we got them from the exchange. I'm not sure we got them. Let's see the.
Here, if you want to look at that. The name tapes, and then the Black Horse patch. They're not the subdued, fully embroidered, you know, that the government issues, and also your sergeant stripes on your jungle tunic. But who know?
I'm not sure if we got them done at downtown. I mean, in town, like we had. Well, at Swanlock, we didn't have any hooch maids or any activity. We had some maintenance of the ground maintenance had some North or South Vietnamese civilian workers, but recall where we got them sewed on at. I don't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember where
Well,
we
it's
did it.
interesting.
But yes,
You know, I noticed.
I'm pretty sure I didn't sew them on myself, but I may have. But I doubt it.
You also gave us a set of your dress greens, and on that you have a number of awards, you know, and also citations, presidential unit citations over the right breast pocket. I noticed one of your awards is the Bronze Star.
Right.
Can you tell us the particulars on that?
That was based on the, that was in 1970, I believe, and we were at Zion, and the first sergeant, it was, should have brought it along to read that, but basically for my support in the motor pool and keeping the troops going, our units going while they were in combat, and that was during the, like I said, they were up at Quan Loy, I'm sure at that time, and just keeping everything in operation and meeting the demands that they needed. So I think that was the gist of it. I mean, that was the reasoning for it. I can't recall what it all reads on there anymore, but it was just for support, the best support from keeping the operations going for that period of time.
Well, you got what they needed to them, and you got it to them in time, I guess. Right. Also, the Army Commendation Medal?
Yeah, I think I have several of those. Several of those cluster stars on there. I got Army Commendation medals.
Noting several awards of the
right.
medal, each cluster, and the Good Conduct Medal.
Yes.
And I think that's what, every 3 years you get a Good Conduct Medal. But you've shared that with us too. Now, one of the most curious things that I believe your wife brought the stuff over, Joyce brought it over, was the parachute.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, can you tell us a story about the parachute and why you kept it? It's not big enough to make a wedding dress out of.
No, it certainly isn't. No, it's just a flare parachute, and you know, in your hooch or around your bunk, you hung things up, and that's something I just gathered up one day out of I guess that's a flare parachute, which you know, we spent many hours out in the bunker on guard duty, and one of them came down close enough to end up with it. I took it in and kept it hanging around my bunk for years, and when I packed up my stuff to come home, I threw it in the bag. I mean, in the box. So it really didn't have any specific agenda as far as where I got it or when it came down, but I just took it in and hung it up and kind of a souvenir for over the years, and as it was hanging there, I brought it home.
Well, it's very unique, and we're certainly glad to have it. Generations to come, I mean, we have nothing else like this in collections. Flares. We go back to mortar and rocket attacks. Did you fellows get hit at night a lot? Where they would cause the artillery?
Right.
You know,
it was always checking something out there. Was usually some Viet Cong trying to come through the concertina wire at any point. You know, I mean, that was their nature, just to get in. So I won't say we got hit every day, but guard duty was not a pleasant duty, but, because, first of all, the bunkers that you are in guard duty weren't exactly clean and free of varmints. The rats and the snakes were an issue when you're in those bunkers, because they're wet, they're everything. And I personally, I never found a snake on guard duty, but I know a buddy of mine I went to into the service together with. He was up at Cumberland Bay closer, and they killed an 11-foot king cobra one night by the bunker, which they heard something the night before. But so those things, and I've seen a picture of it, but those things are big, and so that's the kind of thing. But I really didn't. When you're in that bunker, you don't think too much about it. I mean, but afterwards, you think, was he in there with me? I don't know, but I really like snakes. But we had some other encounters with snakes. I know one day when our troops were down at base for R&R or whatever, coming in from Conroy, we had a quarry outside the base at Zion, and three APCs, right? Well, they're going to go out and swim one day, and they take these APCs out for guard duty, and they got them all stuck in the rice paddies. Well, that told me, and I have to go try to get these tracks out. But they had so I get the Cav to take the tank retriever out, and they get stuck. And I'm standing there one day with this tank retriever spinning its track, and a big snake comes up out of the rice paddy and flies up in the air. And I don't like snakes, not particularly like snakes. And I took off and jumped up on our APCs, which they're pretty high, one leap right top there to get away from that snake. But they're just there. A lot of snakes, the small snakes, the deadly snakes. And I was torn out stumps already where there's snakes everywhere. But that's the kind of stuff that was interesting for guard duty. But back to the parachute, it's you would call it in if you heard something, and shoot up a flare and. See if you can see something, and most of the time you can't see it anyway, because like I said, they're very black dress, black.
They're good.
Yep, they're good. So hidden.
Well, you mentioned the snakes and the critters and so forth. There's a lot more hazards there than just the enemy, wasn't there? Yeah, certainly was. Yes, it's quite interesting, this stuff. We do have one of your tunics out on display in our military section right now, and we'll take you up there to see it when we're done with this here. What year were you discharged? And had
April 71.
71. Did you have any plans when you got discharged?
No, and I didn't. I just.
You were discharged in country, right?
I was discharged at Fort Lewis. That was the other thing. When I came home in April 71, things were really winding down. A lot of people were coming back at that time, and the flights out of country, the civilian flights, commercial flights out of country, were booked up for several days. So a buddy and I went to the airport in Saigon, waited. We went over there to see if we could get a military flight out on standby. So we waited, and we did. We didn't get one that same day, but when the airport closed that night, we sat there on the benches, and when they closed, the rats came out. The rats, it's like these big rats. And make sure we don't fall asleep at the same time, get bit by a rat. We'll be here another 14 days. But So anyway, we waited the next day, and we got a flight. Unfortunately, it was not the best flight home, because we were escorting coffins, but it was a C-141, and we got on that flight, but it was also full of coffins.
Kind of sad.
Yeah. But we got back into we flew into Anchorage, Alaska that day, and then they went on to Dover. We got off there and flew down to Fort Lewis, Washington, and processed out. Did
you find it was a relief to get off that plane?
Yeah.
Speaking, you mentioned earlier, and I'm kind of backtracking, between your tours of duty in country, you had 30-day leave.
Right.
And I take it you came home.
Right.
A lot of unrest in the country.
Yes.
67, 68. Can you relate what your feelings were with the protests and hippie movements and, integration and you know?
It wasn't. I want to say it wasn't pleasant. Like, I think about it today, where we came home and nobody came to see us. Nobody did any of that. It's actually, like you said, they were actually protesting against us. But anyway, but for me, I get from, as long as I got in country and back to Carlisle Springs, so I was kind of away from all of that. So it didn't bother me so much. I mean, it bothered me that they protested, but I didn't really think too much about it or didn't get involved with it. But the more I think about it today, or the years go by, it was ridiculous that we didn't,
Did you
that it got
ever
treated
have,
that way. But
I'm sorry, I didn't.
no, but what I'm saying, the people, why it wasn't us that was caused the war. But anyway.
Did you ever have a personal confrontation with anybody?
No. Matter of fact, in the latter years here, I've been. I was out in Colorado hunting a couple of years ago, and the guide out there, he said, when he found out I was a vet, and he said he thanked me for my service and all that. But it's like, didn't get too much of that. Yeah.
No, I believe that came about pretty much in the 80s with the POW stuff.
Yeah.
And some of the movie production started bringing all that to the forefront. So, you came home. You weren't married at the time. You and Joyce weren't together.
No.
You had just mom and dad and the farm?
Right.
And what were your plans? How long a break did you give yourself to adjust?
Not as much as if I did more thinking about it, I probably would have changed that.
Right.
Gone back to school at that time.
Right.
But my uncle owned a Chevrolet dealership at the time, and he said, I want you to come to work for me. And I did, immediately. I didn't even draw unemployment for a month, and I'm back working.
Right.
Probably I would have thought about that more, gone back and got my degree, and then maybe done something a little different. But it was good. It was a job. It wasn't much money, but it was a job. He got for me a job, and I ended up there for 9 years or so.
Okay.
And
it's something you're familiar with.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can bust track and
Right.
change tires on 2.5s and 5-ton.
yeah, yep. It wasn't. Yeah, a little more sophisticated with cars, but back in the '70s, it wasn't hard to do either. I mean, nowadays there's a lot more electronics and all that, but no, it was fine, but it wasn't getting me anywhere as far as a lucrative career, I say.
Right.
And so
Do
I
you
got
think
out of that. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You
No, I got out
continue.
of that and went on to decided to go to work for the federal government. I went to work down at the Navy Depot for the rest of my career. So, and it more opportunities and more advancement than there was in that business. Even though I was going to try to get into the car dealership business and buy into that, but it was a family-owned and operated business, and there was some other family there, and so that didn't work out too well.
Okay.
So I moved on.
Do you think that coming right out and transitioning into something that was familiar, mechanics, garage, might have made for an easier
Yes,
transition?
it
Allowed you to stay with the familiar and then move on.
And
Well, you got your head together.
So that's what happened. Like I said, if I had sat back and thought more about it, I, might have gone into pursuing the rest of my engineering degree, because I was 2 years at Hack in civil engineering, but I just, and I did take some correspondence courses after I got in. When I was working at the garage, I went to, it's called ASI, advanced some training. Anyway, I had some correspondence courses in electrical and refrigeration and those type of things, which helped me somewhat, because even in the car industry, I was the only one there that did any air conditioning work in vehicles and things, and so I did have some correspondence courses, which I paid for, but I think I might have been better off if I had gone the full GI Bill and going back to school. Who knows? I did well in my career after I went to work for the Navy. So.
Right. Well, the correspondence courses allowed you to specialize in areas, and So tell me, how'd you meet Joyce?
We
How'd
met.
all that come about?
We met a long time before I went in the service. We went to the same church. She was in Carlisle, right outside of Carlisle Springs, and we had a whole gang of guys at Carlisle Springs, and the guys I went to the service with, and some others, and we used to run around together all weekends and whatever. Like I said, we went to the same church, and we stayed together. So she was there through the whole time. Well, she was there. She was in school at Mansfield the whole time I was at Vietnam or in the service. So
Were you high school sweethearts?
yeah, except that when we started, yeah.
Yeah.
She went to Carlisle and I went to Cumberland Valley, so we weren't in the same high school.
Right.
But we were, yes.
That
I guess
age
you'd call
group.
that. Yeah, that age group.
Did you correspond while you were in
Oh,
Vietnam?
yeah. She wrote me every day.
Ah, that's sweet. So when you got out, you hunt her down and ready to resume that
Oh,
relationship?
yeah. Well, like I said, I was home every 6 months.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, we stayed together all that time. She wasn't real happy with me keep going back, of course, but she was about to. She went through graduated with a teaching degree in 3 years because she went all summers because I wasn't around, so she just went straight through in 3 years and got her degree, and then she graduated in June of or May of '71, right? Yeah, I came home in April and she graduated, and then she got a job and we got married, and the rest is.
So you guys, you didn't get married until you were done.
Right. Yeah, we didn't get married till August of '71.
Right.
After
She was done all that behind you.
She was done with school. I was done with the Army. Done with
Right.
and we were home. Yeah.
Right. I know you told me that you'd mentioned a son that's been deployed overseas
I
with the
have
State Department.
2 sons. One is in Florida. The other one is with the State Department. The oldest one, he's a diplomat, Foreign Service officer. He's deployed right now to Serbia, and he's in Belgrade. And I was just there a week ago. We spent 2 weeks with him in early January here. Yeah, he's doing great. He went to school in California after we kind of wanted him not so far away, but he went to school in California, Pomona College, and got his bachelor's. And then he went to Japan for a couple of years, and he came back and went to work in California with a computer outfit. And then he decided to go back to school, and he got his master's at University of California, San Diego, and got in foreign affairs, and now he's in the diplomatic corps. So he's at the embassy in Belgrade right now. He spent tour in Brazil for 2 years. He was in Mexico for 2 years, and he speaks about 5 different languages.
Wow.
And so he's doing good.
Now, is he married?
He's married. He's got 2 kids.
And the family goes with him?
Oh yeah. In that, I mean, there are certain countries, just like the military. He's just like a military officer. He gets his housing and all that, and he's at the embassy. And he's in the political affairs office. He's right now working on getting Serbia into the EU.
Right.
See, they're not part of the EU, and that's one of his goals as being in Serbia is to work at getting them into the EU. Now, our youngest son, he's in Oregon, or he's not in Oregon, he's in Florida. He got his doctorate degree at Oregon State after he went to Clarkson for 4 years, and he went out to Oregon for 7 years and got his doctorate degree in engineering. So he's with the USGS, the Geological Survey.
Kids too?
He's got 2 kids, huh? Yeah. They adopted 2. They couldn't have kids, so they adopted 2 kids from Bulgaria. They adopted 2, and they're doing good. Yeah, he works for the USGS. And he's also an adjunct professor at university down in St. Petersburg. So, yeah, the kids are doing good. They're not military. Well, the oldest one is actually somewhat of a military officer. Yes.
I would think that you and your wife be quite proud.
We are.
And when you all get together, you got a house full, don't you?
We do. And this summer we had them all in Maui for a vacation before they went to Serbia, and we spent
Had a very
weekend
good
now.
time.
Good time, but yeah, when they don't get home all together too often anymore, since they're so far apart. But,
So it's mostly just you and your wife, and
Yep.
y'all take time to do what you want to do.
yeah, well, yeah, we go down to Florida. She goes down. She's going down next week to keep their kids for a week. She's flying down. My daughter-in-law, she travels a lot. She works for a company in Sweden, and she goes to South Korea, and she's gonna be in South Korea next week. And so my wife goes down, helps her with the kids, or helps with the kids.
I think initially when all this got kicked off, it was your wife that brought us the stuff.
Yeah, we were cleaning out the upstairs, and I said, this stuff's it got to go. She said, well, we're well, it's what do you do with it?
Yeah.
And so she said, well, let me take it and see if they are interested in it. So it's just something what do you do with it? Eventually the kids say, well, they didn't know what to do with it either, so that's how it goes. But so yes, we were cleaning out and to do some remodeling up there because of everybody coming home at once. We were trying to fix up that for Christmas last year to get them a place to all stay. They picked up a room up there for the 4 kids and bedroom, and so anyway, we decided to get rid of some stuff. That was the stuff.
Well, we're grateful. We got it, and it'll always be here.
I just didn't think it was, it was.
It
has memories for me, but it doesn't. It's really
significant.
It's significant.
In winding this up, how would you describe your life and how the military impacted it? And I'm sure it did, not putting words in your mouth, but I mean, how was if I may call you Jesse,
sure.
What's the difference between the pre-Jesse and the post-Vietnam Jesse? You mentioned friendship earlier, and the bonds that soldiers have.
Yeah. Well, I think, and it's got to be a big impact. Is the world is out there, and me. I've been, I'm in Carlisle Springs and never been anywhere except to, up northern Pennsylvania or something where my dad had a hunting camp, or not seen the world. Even to my mom had never seen the ocean until she was 80 or 90 or whatever, and so we didn't travel. We didn't do anything. But I've spent a lot of time, not just Vietnam, but when I was there, I took advantage of R&Rs, and I went to, Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia. I took advantage of those things and went those places, and it cost money, but it was something I would have never did. Now that my kids are out there in the world more, I do more traveling. But I would have never seen parts of the world I wasn't there. So I'm saying it's just it gave me a big perspective on what's out there in the world, the big thing. And like I said, friendships and as being a country boy in there, I just wouldn't have had that opportunity. And I think it was a big impact on my life in that respect. Had I not gone there, I may have ended up just being in the garage or being a farmer the rest of my life, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm still a farmer. I still own a small farm, and even as I was working for the government, I still farmed every night, and that's still in my blood. But and I do my own mechanical work, so it's like I'm not sure what I would have did had I not gone in there, but I don't regret it at all. I really do think it was a good decision. Like I said, maybe some of the decisions afterwards might have, and I don't know that would have changed my mind. I did well with my promotions and career at the Navy and FO, and so I did well. A lot of people don't get that far. So, and even what college I had helped me get in there and get to even the 2 years that I know. The first guy that interviewed me said, well, my job there was technical, but it was all desk work and all buying parts for the Navy ships. Okay, so, and his thing was, well, you've had, we do a fair amount of writing and things, and he said, I know that you had 2 years of college, and English is what, you've had the college English and courses and stuff. He said, I really look at that, and that's one of the things. So it did help me.
Sure.
But had I gone on, it might have got me further, it might not have, I don't know.
Well, it appears to me that, in essence, not putting words in your mouth, but the service time made you a bit more worldly.
Yes.
Where you realized there was a bigger perimeter than Carlisle Springs.
Right.
I mean, there was, it was out
Yes,
there.
like I said, I wouldn't have got there otherwise because the family wasn't. The family is a small farm with 8 kids. We didn't do much.
8 kids. Where'd you fall in that group?
Kind of in the middle. I had
Kind of in the middle.
three after me, but my younger brother was 6 years. 6 years between me and the next one. So my mom thought she was done, but all of a sudden she had 3 more. So that's what she always said.
All right, sure. Well, do you have anything else that you'd like to say while we've got you here?
Can't think of anything. Like I said, it's been it was a good decision going into service, and
Well, it seems
I often sometimes thought, well, I got out and I think I would have had a good career there too had I stayed, because I was, as far as rank goes, it was easy to get, not easy, but easier to get in Vietnam during a war and things. And I know I would have probably going on to be a warrant officer in my career. Where I was headed, I would have been a warrant officer. So I would have, I could have had a career there too. But at that time, just wanted to get out. Just because it was. It was not the thing to do, but or it could have been the thing to do. It just wasn't in my head right there at that time. So I got out, and I got a good career otherwise. So.
Well, it sounds like you got out and you made a good life for yourself and your wife and your family.
Yeah,
and
we did.
That's the prize that it is. Well, we've been talking with Mr. Jesse W. Long of Carlisle, and my name's Michael Collins. I'm a Cumberland County Historical Society volunteer. Jesse has shared a lot of information with us concerning his pre-military life, his service time, and what's been going on with him and his family since then. At this time, we'll conclude this interview, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.